Heidi, you talked about the world changing, and that makes me think that the career landscape is changing really quickly as well. I do a lot of work with Gen AI, and you look at the speed of change with that new technology, and you wonder, how is it going to impact our jobs over the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? And so, innovation and re-innovation is going to be absolutely critical for our own development. And those ideas of collaboration and innovation are inextricably linked. In our book, we took more than 4 decades of data from the US Patent Office. And what we see is that innovation is becoming a team sport. If you look at this big blue section of the graph, this graph shows innovators over the last 40 years. And what you see is that big blue section shows solo innovators. And what you see is solo innovators have dropped by half over the last 40 years. Whereas the gray section, the third section there, shows a doubling of 3-person patent teams. And in fact, all the way up at the top there, you've had a 9-fold increase in 7-person patent teams. Why? Right? Why is that happening? It's because the problems that we're solving are becoming so complex that no one person can solve them on their own. People need to bring together complementary expertise in order to crack these problems, right? And that, I think, is also true in our own careers, right? We need to stay engaged with people from different backgrounds and different expertise so that we continue to learn, we develop new perspectives, and we stay on top of all of these changes that are happening in the workplace.
Absolutely, Ivan. So we've got a question for you already, but let me just jump in with one idea. We keep talking about expertise as if it's something that somebody learned from books, or they learned at university, they learned in grad school. And I recall when you and I were writing the book, we were so deliberate in talking not just about functional expertise or technical expertise, but a much broader array of know how and know what. It might be people who are joining forces because they're coming from different cultural backgrounds. It might be people who grew up in a very different socioeconomic situation. And we had that one example of somebody who was just absolutely killing it in an advertising agency because they constantly brought to life how different perspectives were going to be, how they were bringing to life how different perspectives would illuminate opportunities in an advertising campaign, right? And so they would say, in the culture where I grew up, you're completely missing this angle to really grab people. Or in the culture where I grew up, what you just said wouldn't land at all, right? So that idea of different kinds of backgrounds, bringing those diverse perspectives and showing opportunities or identifying risks that other people have missed is really crucial. But here's the question, Ivan, that came in. It's from Edward. He asked, do you see better or smarter collaboration within certain types of companies or industries? And if so, why?
Yeah, really interesting question. The short answer is no. The need for effective collaboration, our views exist across industries. We did a lot of work in professional services in particular, but we worked with companies in fintech, biotech, manufacturing, consumer products. We worked with companies in every region of the world. And what we found is that any organization, any industry where they have these big VUCA challenges and where they tend to have specialization of expertise, right? This idea of smarter collaboration is critical because you have to break down those silos. You have to bring those perspectives, as you talked about, Heidi, those different points of view, those different life experiences and different expertise together to solve those problems.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think it's worth noting as well, Ivan, that it's not always the giants that are facing these issues and opportunities, right? It can be tiny, tiny organizations. We worked with some professional firms that had, a dozen people around a table, and you're thinking, how is it possible that the person you have lunch with 3 days a week, you don't know what they're doing. And yet people get so, it's either because they're hyper specialized and they don't know other people's jargon, or it might just be because they've got their head down in their work and forget to ask those kinds of questions. But it's not that it's necessarily bigger or smaller or more technologically sophisticated or less. You're absolutely right. I mean, in the book, we were able to draw on organizations and data from organizations of so many different kinds. It's really, really fascinating. It's basically wherever there's humans, right?